Ooh. Hello and welcome to the Caffeine Nightly Show. I'm your host, the Goldsmith. It is the fourth of November, 2024. It happens to be a Monday, so we get a kickoff on the week. A couple things happening today. First and foremost, update on the NOLA Staking Challenge. Again, we have a contest throughout the season rewarding players cumulatively for their efforts for Spark Hours staked, earning points along the way or earning more Sparklet along the way, depending on hitting certain milestones. A new milestone's been hit, 20 million Sparklet stakes. So get into that. Remind us on this road to the big game contest, again, continuing through the month. Along with that, we do have a deadline on when to collect that Sparklet. So if you're not an active player and you know this just happened, you do have to collect Sparklet by the 11th for the Sparklet airdrop, which just happened. That was the Sparklet airdrop earned in Snapshot on the 30th of November, 30th of October, with the expiration of the collection, of the last day to collect, being the 11th of November, next Monday. Now, we're going to get into it. I had it on my list to keep an eye on for Miami Beach unlock of all those properties that were reserved for the pass sale. We had a unlock, and there's some interesting things that went along with it. We'll get into the specifics there. And again, it is an unfortunate tale that has happened more than once in the game of Upland, and that is that Upland knows the rules of daylight savings in the United States, but then doesn't actually follow them. So we'll get into that. And then the one other thing to keep an eye on and to look out for is we do have collection reveal this coming Thursday. Miami Beach has minted out again once those properties were released from the reservations for the pass sales. So City of Miami Beach is minted out with a caveat that people can buy in the secondary and speculate and buy the properties they want to have as we do move towards collection field this coming Thursday. To get the disclaimer out of the way, all views and opinions expressed by myself, they're mine and mine alone. Should not be taken as game strategy or financial advice that represent the game of the team of Upland. All views and opinions expressed by myself, again, and those who are contributors on the show don't represent necessarily myself, the Goldsmith, the guy that show the game of Upland, the team of Upland, that shouldn't be taken as game strategy or financial advice. Easy enough. Let's share the screen here, and then we'll have to go back and find the original announcement to remind ourselves of a few things here. And that is on the, here it is. That is on the road to the big game 2024. Here it is. Look at that. That is going to be 20 million Spark Hours staked in the city of New Orleans. Again, this is specifically for Spark Hours staked in the city of New Orleans. 20 million have been staked from the 15th of September, I think, or about there to now, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of concentrated effort. We've seen a lot of effort, shift from other cities to New Orleans, and that has had an effect. It's had an effect in the fact that we have a lot more properties that are built through at this point. It's had an effect in the fact that we are seeing that there are people who are being more active with making sure they're staking their Sparklet because they know they're going to get some Sparklet as a reward at the end, assuming they continue to stake, assuming the community continues to hit milestones along the way, and they have. At 20 million Sparklet, we'll get into that, remind ourselves what we've unlocked. And then the caveat, again, is we have these other airdrops happening throughout. One that did Snapshot on the 30th was for doing tasks or completing tasks as a multiplier, and then multiplying what the Sparklet you had earned prior to the TGE. We do see people who do put the effort in, do complete more tasks. They gain a larger Sparklet drop, which is great for them. And again, continued effort, continued reason, continued incentive to be active in the game of Upland. So let's take a look at the challenge if we can get all the way back to it. Again, this is the Road to the Big Game Challenge all the way back in September. Oh my gosh, what a haul back to get there. But the Road to Big Game Challenge, again, keeping track of Spark Hours staked in the city of New Orleans, knowing that long-term, I thought we were going to get there. Knowing that long-term we are working to earn along the way, increase the number of Spark Hours staked in total, and increase the amount of Sparklet that is available in those payouts. Again, the idea of the payouts for, I thought we were going to get there eventually. The idea of the payouts going out for the cumulative effort, cumulative staking is the more spark hours that go in, the more spark that is going to get paid out. And that is going to be something that we are going to see again come to an end after the big game. So we do have a couple months left for this to finalize. This is something that we're going to continue to see efforts go into between now and the middle of January, beginning of February, with the idea that Upland is really using this incentive to kind of build out the city of New Orleans. I'd like to see this continue to happen. If we move it from one city to the next, we can continue to see these cities get built out systematically. It is nice to see the new properties get built in the city of New Orleans and New Orleans be a little more full over time. So we can kind of see what that looks like if you go and take a look at the city of New Orleans as we head back over. It is kind of, as you do get into the street level, we're seeing certain areas of the city get built out. What's interesting is because the incentive is on the number of spark hours staked as opposed to the number of structures built, is we see people putting effort into building these high sparklet hour intensive structures. People building things like factories, people building things like, where's a good example? There we go. People building things like factories, people building things like the higher end houses, larger houses, where there is a concentration of sparklet that goes into a single structure. Again, people park their sparklet there for a longer period of time. That's incentivizing, again, this idea, because it's less often that you have to move your sparklet, of building these more more sparklet intensive structures. Again, building factories and building large structures and really concentrating and kind of beautifying the area, as opposed to just micro house and micro house and micro house. And if you ask me, the cumulative spark hours, reward people for cumulative spark hours staked as opposed to structures, really does help with that. It really does help build things out. And there is definitely some benefit in having that variety of structures, in having those factories, in having the apartment buildings be incentivized to be built, as opposed to just small small structures, and to get them built as quick as possible. And again, the amount of structures that have been built in the city of New Orleans, I'd love to see the stats. I don't know, Upland will have later, hopefully, the overall number, the number of spark hours in total. The idea that continuing to build out the city is going to make it a more fully built city, potentially create more opportunities and more utilization on the layer 2 gaming side. The idea that we can have utilization or some kind of utility for structures that are built, and then have a city that's heavily built out with structures. So making it a really special city. Looking forward to seeing what layer 2 can come up with that. I've not lost hope, but we do know, in reality, Upland is not and has not put really strong utility for structures in layer 1. We know that's been the case. We have gotten to a point that we don't think that's going to happen immediately in the future, but layer 2 utility would be great for these structures that are being built in the city of New Orleans. Make New Orleans the home of something that incentivizes people to have structures on their property, because again, you're incentivizing work that people have already done, but also incentivizing people to accumulate structures after this city's been built out, because it looks at this moment like the city of New Orleans is seeing pretty well distributed structure growth. We have structures getting built in parts of the city that are collections, parts of the city that aren't collections, parts of the city that have nodes in them, parts of the city that don't have nodes in them. It's really strong distribution. There's certain areas that have very high concentrations of structures built. There's areas that are planned communities where very specific structures with specific decor and coloring have been built. But again, this variety of structures and the hodgepodge of we have a apartment building right next to a luxury, right next to a micro house. We look over here where we can continue to see this, just see the city get built out by individuals as well as some communities getting involved. So it's kind of exciting to see that continue to built out. Reminder that you do have until the big game to continue to stake Spark. And even if we hit our top reward tier, is incentive to continue to stake Spark. And that is your amount of stake Spark personally is going to help determine your share of the overall payout of Sparklet at the end of the season. So keep that in mind. And that is going to be heading in, accumulating in the early part of February 2025. Let's take a look at one other thing here. Um, Again, not going to see it here in Upland. Other than to see the note, Upland didn't make the official announcement anywhere that made it clear, but the city of Miami Beach had a bunch of unminted properties this morning. Those unminted properties were the properties that were reserved for pass sale and were not distributed, were not minted because people chose not to. Either they were too high UPX, they bought the pass and then didn't like the neighborhood their property was in, whatever the case. They left them unminted. Well, they didn't mint those properties, and it was a lot of other people's second chance to do so. You will continue to see empty spaces throughout the city, as Upland has said. Certain properties in Miami Beach have been reserved for future contests or future incentives and partnerships. But the city is pretty well minted through, or is minted through as far as it's concerned. All the properties that were sitting there unminted, people came and minted them this morning. Well, what the wrinkle is the timing was a little different than what Upland had said. Upland had said 9 a.m. PT is when the unlock might happen, or 9 a.m. PT is when the hold expires for the people who had these properties reserved for them by having passes. Well, the reality is it was daylight savings. Upland knew it was daylight savings because they reminded people that it was daylight savings. Daylight savings means for this time of year, the clock falls back, aka compared to 2 days ago, the position of the sun is an hour later, even though we've only traveled a couple days. That's because we had the clocks fall back or the timing fall back. We get a little more light in the morning, which is kind of nice. But it also means that if you didn't set your clocks back, things are an hour earlier, happened an hour earlier. And guess what? That seems to be what happened for Upland's time. Again, keep in mind that Upland's engineering, some of it is outside of the United States. They still have a decent amount of the development in the Ukraine. And guess what? Guess who doesn't have daylight savings? Who didn't run daylight savings? So the daylight savings was not effectuated as was expected by all the players of the game, meaning we did have those properties released what was essentially an hour early. Earlier than people expected them to, because again, instead of clocks falling back, they didn't quite do so. So we did have the properties released earlier than people expected and get minted through before some of the people who were planning on had their time set and planning to be there to mint had the opportunity to get in and do so. This is another snafu we've seen a couple times where daylight savings is not either uniformly put out in these contests, or ultimately there's something that's happening on the day after daylight savings. I will put out a modest proposal here. I think Upland, given the number of 3-4 times that we've had this issue, just don't do something on the day after daylight savings. Make it so that you're not having that mistake, or you're not creating that opportunity for yourself to make that mistake. That way you're quoting a consistent time and you're not making a mistake about the time you're quoting. We see people, moving things around on the clock. The reality is when things happen, when things happen on the clock, it is nice to have a consistent time zone, or be able to know what that time zone is going to be. Just go on, the week after. Just don't do that promotion, or don't do that major contest or major release on the day after a time zone swap or shift in the time zone. But otherwise, we did see that release, and we did see those properties sell through very quickly. Likely to see that these properties do continue to move in the secondary. Collection speculation between now and this coming Thursday, 9 a.m. PT, when we expect the release to happen, or the collection reveal to happen. Keeping in mind, since everything did mint through, we are going to see that collection reveal likely include every single property. We're likely going to see all the collections get revealed, see what hit, what didn't, and likely have a second chance where people are liquidating the properties that didn't hit collection that they thought they were going to. If you really want that property for a non-collection reason, it might be your opportunity to do so. Again, reminder is this coming Thursday is the reveal. So if you are wanting to participate, be careful about what's left on the market. You might be surprised. You might have it hit the collection. Or if you are trying to buy and scoop up collections, vice versa. Take a look at what's still left in the market when the collections reveal at 9 a.m. PT on Thursday. Other than that, we don't have a lot else going on. Good to watch out for, again, between now and the 15th of November to increase your number of tasks complete so that you can increase your payout. If you weren't happy with your payout for your Sparklet reward just barely today, increase your multiplier, get a larger payout on the 6th or after the 15th snapshot. We do have the 6th, not the final, but the second to final penultimate drop for the cosmetic drops for harvest season. So if you haven't burnt the pass yet, you still can burn a pass. You can still go ahead for the harvest season cosmetic pass and have 2 weeks of drops. Keep in mind, it is not retroactive. You can't get the earlier ones. So if you haven't burnt it yet, it's up to you whether you want to burn it for 2 drops or not. But again, you can never get back the 5 that have already happened this season. And then otherwise, besides that, we're gonna look at the fact that we do have we do have and we will have continuing through the rest of the month and the rest of the season, NFLPA stuff dropping later in the week on the Thursday. On Monday, we should have had the ability to exchange passes, and we did have this Monday. We'll continue to see that every Monday happen today, 9 a.m. PT, the ability to exchange your passes from 2 weeks prior in the football season. For tonight, thank you so much for being here Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. PT. Get together in the cafe on the Plaza on Tuesdays and Fridays on YouTube and in Twitter. Just going over the daily news again tomorrow. For all that it is a big day in many ways. Hopefully Upland has a chance to do something big in Upland. Maybe make it exciting, for those who are happy and those who aren't because of what the day is and what's going on. Let's be happy in Upland. Thank you so much for being here. Be back tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. PT. Keep in mind, time zone change did go through. We did have daylight savings time, and even though Upland missed it, I didn't. So we are using daylight savings time in the U.S. Thank you so much. Take care, and see you tomorrow.